The shadow of an elevator. Jaehoon, a college student who lives in a high-rise apartment in Seoul, was on his way home from studying at the library until late at night. It was drizzling that day, and Jaehoon walked into the entrance to the apartment with an umbrella. It was late, so the lobby was empty, and the quiet atmosphere made Jaehoon rather tired. Jaehoon pressed the button to get in the elevator. After waiting a little bit, the elevator arrived and the door opened. The inside of the elevator was empty, and Jaehoon sighed deeply and pressed the button on the 10th floor. The door closed and the elevator started to go up slowly. When the elevator went up to the 10th floor, it suddenly stopped and the lights blinked. Jaehoon was embarrassed at the moment, but soon the lights started working normally as the lights went back on. But at that moment, Jaehoon felt a strange feeling behind his back. It felt as if someone was standing behind Jaehoon. Jaehoon looked back slowly, but there was no one in the elevator. He turned back, shaking his head. Then, he saw his back reflected in the elevator door. But the backside was strangely different from him. The figure in the shadow was taller than Jaehoon, and a black figure with no face visible. Jaehoon looked back in surprise, but there was still no one in the elevator. He saw himself reflected in the door again. The figure in the shadow became clearer, and seemed to be approaching Jaehoon more and more. Jaehoon pushed the button wildly in fear, but the elevator didn't stop. Then, all of a sudden, the lights went out as if the elevator had a power failure. In the dark, Jaehoon was trapped in a silence that he couldn't even hear his breathing. And in the stillness, he heard a strange whisper in his ear. "I can't run away." Jaehoon screamed in fear, but the sound only echoed inside the elevator. He banged his fist on the door and shouted for help, but there was no response. In the dark, Jaehoon felt increasingly suffocated. At that moment, the elevator lights were turned on again and the door opened. Jaehoon ran out of the elevator in a hurry. He was arriving on the 10th floor. Jaehoon looked back while taking a breath, but the inside of the elevator was empty again. Jaehoon opened the door with his trembling hands and entered the house. He breathed a sigh of relief, checking his face in front of the mirror. But at that moment, he saw his back in the mirror. The shadow he saw inside the elevator was still standing. Jaehoon looked back in surprise, but nobody was there. He looked at the shadow in the mirror again. The shadow slowly approached, stood next to Jaehoon, and whispered in his ear, "Now with you." Since then, Jaehoon did not ride the elevator alone, and he avoided standing in front of a mirror. He always lived in fear that someone was watching him. The shadow permeated Jaehoon's daily life and dyed his life dark. And since that night, Jaehoon was not alone anymore. This is because shadow always stayed by his side.